Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel to NYC Skate, and today we're going to talk about the Meepo Hurricane and the Propel Endeavor Pro, and we're going to discuss some differences, similarities, and review the specs of both boards. Now if you find this part boring, you can skip through the video. I'll put it in the description below for which part you could actually see in terms of us riding. But if you are actually interested in the specs and see what differences these two boards have, I'll be explaining them right now. First, we'll start off with the dimensions of the Meepo Hurricane, which is 44 inches in length, 13 inches in width, and 4.9 inches in terms of height. This board is currently on the market for $1,799, and if you were around Black Friday around 2021, this board was around $1,300, which is an absolute steal. So if you were able to get this board around for $1,300, you've got yourself a really good deal, and you won't regret it. The Propel Endeavor Pro is around $2,099 currently on the market. If you were around the summertime of 2021, this board was around $1,800 if you were to get the VESC 4 option, but due to the shortages of the FlipSky VESC 4, Propel had to change most of their boards into VESC 6, so the price did rise up a little bit. Also, if you did pre-order the Propel Endeavor Pro around the summertime, it was also cheaper, and for example, for my friend, he ordered it around August, and his board arrived around January. So due to the long shipping times, Propel actually gave him money back for the extensive amount of time, which is still honestly a steal. But due to the mechanics and the qualities of this board, I still think that the Propel Endeavor Pro has a really good price. The dimensions for this board is 44 inches in length, 17.7 inches in width, and 9 inches in height. Now the only differences we have in terms of dimensions is that the Propel Endeavor is wider, so you should reconsider if you ride the Propel Endeavor through traffic, because if you're trying to squeeze through very tight spaces, it won't be as practical as the Meepo Hurricane, which will be able to squeeze through those very tight spaces. When it comes to weight, the Meepo Hurricane weighs around 33 pounds or 15 kilograms, while the Propel Endeavor Pro weighs around 43 pounds or 19.5 kilograms. Now, the Propel Endeavor Pro is heavier than the Propel Endeavor S, but today we're talking about the Endeavor Pro since it's the better board. If you are more of the city commuter and you wouldn't want to carry around a really heavy board, I'd rather consider the Meepo Hurricane because it is 10 pounds lighter than the Propel Endeavor. So just a thought into consideration if you have to carry it around, or a flight of stairs, or take the subway. In terms of the battery specs, the Meepo Hurricane uses the Molicel P42A 725.8 watt-hours 12S4P battery pack. Meanwhile, the Propel Endeavor Pro uses the Samsung 50G 1110 watt-hour 12S5P battery pack. So the only differences you can see in terms of battery specs is that the Propel Endeavor Pro has a larger capacity, which will take you a greater amount of range compared to the Meepo Hurricane. However, the Meepo Hurricane uses the Molicel P42A cells, which is known to last longer than the Propel Endeavor Samsung 50G cells. Also, the Meepo Hurricane has a charge time of 2 hours and 40 minutes, meanwhile the Propel Endeavor has a charge time around 5 hours, which also has a built-in fan to cool down the charger. Next up, we'll talk about the motor specs. In terms of the Meepo Hurricane, the motors is a whopping 3,500 watts each motor. That means it's 7,000 watts in total, which blows my mind, honestly. And they're 6374 165 kV motors, which actually is kind of perfect in the middle because you get that nice torque and the high speed at the same time. The top speed for this board is 31 miles per hour with the 6-inch 155mm pneumatic wheels, 35 miles per hour with the 90mm wheels that are urethane, and hypothetically, if you were to put on the new Meepo Cyclone wheels or the Cloudwheel 105s or 120s, you would get a theoretical top speed of 37 to 40 miles per hour, depending on your gear ratio. The Propel Endeavor Pro uses the same 6374, however it's the 140 kV motors. But the good terms of this motor is that you get a higher torque, so the Propel Endeavor would take off because of those large 8-inch knobby wheels. And these motors are rated at 3,000 watts each, which brings you a total of 6,000 watts of power. The top speed for the Propel Endeavor Pro is 31 miles per hour with the 8-inch 203mm knobby tires. I'm not sure what the top speed is with the 7-inch road tires, so if somebody could leave the top speed in the comments below, I would appreciate that. With speed also comes with hill climb, where Meepo claims their board can have a hill climb of 46%, meanwhile Propel claims their Propel Endeavor Pro can have a hill climb around 38%. Overall, with the speed factor, I would call the Meepo Hurricane the Tesla Plaid of electric skateboards, meanwhile I would call the Propel Endeavor the Tesla Cybertruck of electric skateboards. Now for the deck, both boards use a 3K carbon fiber. The Meepo Hurricane has more of a matte finish, while the Propel Endeavor has more of a glossy appearance. Both boards are also water resistant, where the Meepo Hurricane has an IP rating of 67, meanwhile the Propel Endeavor has an IP rating of 55. Lastly, for the weight limit, Meepo claims that the Hurricane could have a load around 552 pounds or 250 kilograms, while the Propel Endeavor could have a load around 350 pounds or 158 kilograms. Now, the only reason why I think the Propel Endeavor has a lower weight limit than the Meepo Hurricane is probably because of the suspension system. The heavier the person would be, the more the Propel Endeavor would sink into the ground and the suspension wouldn't really play a role. Now this is my favorite part. The Meepo Hurricane uses the Lingyi FOC, which is the new ESC that Meepo has designed for the new Hurricane, which basically is, honestly in my opinion, 10 times better than the Hobbywing ESC. But it does have some flaws. However, the Meepo Hurricane Lingyi ESC has a current peak power of 70 amps of continuous power. Now the only flaw I could state with the new ESC is that if you're at a cruising speed, if you punch the throttle just a little bit, it tends to give out a little bit more power. I'm pretty sure Daniel Kwan explained this in his video in terms of the Meepo Hurricane. I don't think he was clear enough because when it's really cold outside, anywhere under 35 Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius. Otherwise, the ESC performs wonderful. The acceleration curve is really smooth, especially on mode 3, which is honestly my favorite mode. Mode 4 is more of a racing mode and it throws a punch, so if you're not careful enough and you hit the throttle just a little bit, it'll literally throw you off the board. A ton of my friends tried the speed mode 4, they got thrown off the board. It is absolutely crazy. Now the Propel Endeavor uses the FlipSky FS ESC 6.6, which is known for many DIY builders in terms of building their new DIY budget boards. The FlipSky can deliver 65 amps of power, which is 5 amps lower than the Meepo Hurricane, but if you were to customize this VESC, the Propel Endeavor could possibly have more power than the Meepo Hurricane. Now the Propel Endeavor only has 3 modes, which is a low, medium, and high, but even though if you're on the highest mode, the acceleration curve is really gentle. Like you would have to press and hold the throttle like a quick second and then the board gradually picks up, but it's still powerful enough to propel you basically from start. The Meepo Hurricane has 4 speed modes and 4 different brake modes you could customize. So if you're a slow rider or you're scared about pulling a throttle, you could basically customize it to have nicer and more gentle braking. Now the Propel Endeavor, the brakes are pretty strong, I'm not gonna lie, and you can't adjust it, so you have to be really sensitive on the throttle. And you can't pull it too far back because if you do, you might get thrown off the board. Now, if I were to say which falls into which place, I would say that the Speed Mode 3 on the Meepo Hurricane accelerates slightly slower than the Propel Endeavor High Mode, but the Speed Mode 4 accelerates even quicker than the Propel Speed Mode High Mode. So pretty much the Propel Endeavor High Mode falls in between the Meepo Hurricane Speed Mode 3 and 4. Personally, I would consider if Propel made a 4th speed mode, like a turbo mode, for example from Backfire or any other electric skateboard out there, which would actually give a little bit more competition because I know for a fact that Propel isn't really using the peak power of their motors. Now, when you use the brake function, both of these boards have really strong brakes, so they both fall into the same category because both boards use the same motors. But I am confident enough to say that the Propel Endeavor brakes are stronger than the Meepo Hurricane brakes because with the use of the FlipSky ESC, when you pull the throttle all the way back, the smart ESC automatically puts it into reverse. You don't have to press a button or anything to change it to reverse mode, unlike the Meepo Hurricane's ESC. So when you're going down a really steep hill and you gently pull back the throttle to brake, the Propel Endeavor Pro will actually stay in its place. Meanwhile, the Meepo Hurricane slightly rolls down the hill. But if you were to brake on a flat surface with the Meepo Hurricane, the board stays completely still and you can't move it at all. Alright, next up we're going to talk about the range for both of these boards. The Meepo Hurricane has a wheel option of either the 6-inch pneumatics or the 90mm urethane wheels. Now the 6-inch pneumatics, they have to be filled up around 50 psi, which is pretty stiff, so this board is really recommended for street use. Now the Propel Endeavor uses 8-inch pneumatics, but they're more of a knobby type of tire, and they could be filled around 30 to 35 psi, which makes sense because they're for off-road use, so you would have to have a little less psi. The Propel Endeavor also has a 7-inch option, but you would have to buy that separately. Meanwhile, the Meepo Hurricane, you could buy it as a 2-in-1 option and save a little money for the urethane wheels. Now in terms of range, the Meepo Hurricane is advertised to go 31 miles with the 6-inch wheels, while you could go 44 miles with the 90mm wheels, which is pretty crazy. And the Propel Endeavor Pro can go with a range of 44 miles with the 8-inch wheels, which sounds even better because the larger the wheel diameter, the more power the board will consume. Now I'm a 160-pound rider, so I'm going to share you my personal experience of the range I got from the Meepo Hurricane. Since I got this board around November, I haven't been able to really ride this board out in very nice weather and get good range, but let me tell you the results. Now anywhere around 35 degrees Fahrenheit or below, which is starting to be a freezing temperature, I would get around 12 miles of range of continuous full throttling, full power. If you don't know me, I'm a speed demon, and I always like to ride my electric skateboard with the full throttle and full power, and I never go slow. Now, like I said, under 35 degrees Fahrenheit, I would get around 12 miles. Around 40 Fahrenheit to 50 Fahrenheit, I would get around 14 miles of range. Around 60 Fahrenheit to 70 Fahrenheit, I would get around 16 miles of range. And around 70 to 80 Fahrenheit, it is known that you'll get around 18 miles of range. Now this may sound really low, but if you really think about it, if you full throttle the board the whole time and you're going continuously for 30 miles an hour and you're going up or down hills or you're fighting against wind, range will vary and it plays a huge factor based off your conditions and your riding style. Now based off of Meepo's website, they claim their batteries can have a charge cycle of 500. So if you do the math, basically what I did is I took all the mileages I would possibly get under different weather conditions and I added it up to get the total, which is around 15 miles. So now if you take the 500 charge cycles and multiply it to 15 miles, I got an estimated range around 7,500 miles, or maybe more, who knows, which is honestly pretty good. So this board could be lasting around for a really long time. Now if I were to ride the Propel Endeavor as a 160-pound rider, basically what I did is I put 15 over 31 miles, which is claimed with the all-terrain wheels, equal to X over 44 miles, which is claimed with the Propel range. Do a little bit of cross multiply and you would basically get a range of 21 miles on average with the Endeavor. So now that we know the average mileage under riding the Propel Endeavor Pro and the Meepo Hurricane, I was curious enough to see how many times more range you would get with the Propel Endeavor. With a little bit of math, I got a difference of 1.4. If you take the range of the Meepo Hurricane and you multiply it by 1.4, that would be the estimated range of the Propel Endeavor Pro. And here you go, I'm going to list you all the mileages based off different weather conditions and the riding style, which I ride around speed mode 3 and speed mode 4 sometimes in around 31 miles per hour the whole time. Now let's talk about the trucks for both of these boards. In terms of the Meepo Hurricane, it uses their standard double kingpin trucks with its own Meepo bushings, and pretty much double kingpin trucks are basically used in every all-terrain board right now on the market. A lot of people don't like double kingpin trucks because of speed wobbling, but in my opinion, if you're experienced enough to ride double kingpin trucks, you could pretty much handle it well. And personally, I think the Meepo Hurricane is a beast when it comes to double kingpin trucks, because I have ridden on streets before where there was an uneven terrain, and when one of my wheels hit that, the board did lose balance a little bit, but the stability was really nice and it kept me balanced no matter what. So I feel like even though they are double kingpin trucks, the Meepo Hurricane still keeps you stable and you could have the nice ride comfort going at that top speed. Now when it comes to the Propel Endeavor Pro, it uses suspension, which is basically coil over shocks that has been installed independently for each wheel. So this is pretty much a car or a dune buggy. If you're riding on very uneven terrain, this board is basically going to eat up and swallow up all those vibrations, all those bumps, and you're not going to feel a damn thing. Like, this thing is literally an off-road beast. I would most definitely recommend the Propel Endeavor Pro way above than the Meepo Hurricane in terms of off-road use. But the only downside with the suspension system that Propel made is that the turning radius is really wide, and I don't like that personally because I like to flow through traffic, and if I don't have, or I'm not confident enough to swerve around cars or through traffic with the Propel Endeavor, then it's not the board for me. But when it comes in terms of off-road suspension and that nice feeling of the Propel Endeavor, these trucks are the way to go. In terms of ride comfort for both of these boards, the Meepo Hurricane and the Propel feel the same when I ride on streets and on like cracks and little bumps. They both feel the exact same, but that all changes when you go fully off-road or really uneven terrain. The Propel Endeavor suspension will eat up all those bumps, all those shocks, and it feels like you're just riding on a flat surface the whole time. Alright, I saved this one for last because personally, I believe that without great customer support, it's not worth investing so much money into a board if they're not going to help you out or, have a good customer support. The Meepo Hurricane has a full 365-day warranty, basically 1 year. That is honestly amazing because a lot of boards right now on the market have around 6 months of warranty. So I think what Meepo is doing is a really good deal. The Propel Endeavor Pro has a 6-month warranty, which is half of the Meepo's warranty, but still 6 months of warranty is a long amount of time, and anything could happen around those 6 months, but it's not as long as the Meepo's Hurricane's warranty. Despite the warranty, both brands have a great customer support. For example, for Meepo, they're super responsive. They usually reply to me around under 1 business day or in several hours. Same thing with Propel. They have an active Facebook community. There's a lot of people in there and they're always responding, always asking questions. The group is very active, and I think that having great customer support builds a better foundation for their companies. If you made it to the end of the video, I want to thank you guys for watching. It took me a really long time to make this video, and if you need to find anything, please go down to the description below and all the details will be listed for the video. And if you guys could hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, it'd be much appreciated, and I'll see you guys another time.